my name is JF Garrard, and I'm the president of Dark Helix Press. So thank you very much for coming out this evening to participate in this Unendorsed Trump Tales panel. A lot of the stories that you're going to hear today are from this Trump anthology that we published a while ago called Trump, Utopia, or Dystopia. And that was because at the time he was just elected. So I thought things could go either way. It could be good, it could be bad. But you know, in the end, this book is a mixture of speculative fiction, of comedy, and satire. So I think it's one of the best books I've worked on. Jen Frankel's one of my co-editors, and I think we're quite proud of this book. Although we've gotten a lot of weird looks for having it on one of the books that we worked on. So anyhow, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my first reader, which is Ira Nayman. So Ira Nayman is the proprietor of the alternate reality news service, which sends reporters into other dimensions and has them report back about what they find there. The 12th and 13th collections in this series will be published in 2021. 6 of his novels have been published by Elsewhen Press. The 7th, Bad Actors, will also be published in 2021. For 2.5 years, Ira was also the editor of Amazing Stories magazine. So thank you, Ira. So I will mute and I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jeannie. I should say, just by way of introduction, that I write political satire, write a lot of political satire, and when Trump started, almost from the day he was inaugurated, I turned my attention to him. So I've been writing a lot about Trump specifically. To give you some example, the 2 alternate reality news service books that are coming out this year will be the 4th and 5th books devoted entirely to Trump and his administration. So for the short story in this anthology, I wanted to do something a little different, maybe something a little less direct. So this story is more about how divisions can keep us from acting. It's called A Town Called Unity. "Say, fella," the tiny blonde woman in the pink striped uniform of the professional waitress said, "I know it's not quite closing time, but it's been a long day, so if y'all wouldn't mind." The fire hydrant with limbs and sandy hair smile was electric. "No problem," he said, taking one last slurp from a long empty milkshake. "Vanilla, don't judge." "It's just been a lazy kind of day, Mona." The man read the name tag on the woman's uniform. "The kind of day when contemplating the world's problems is much more inviting than making any kind of effort to solve them. Know what I mean?" "You're trying to talk your way to closing time," Mona smiled. "You got me." The fire hydrant with limbs raised his hands in mock defeat. Mona watched admiringly as the muscular man shimmied across the booth, stood, and walked out the door of the Wayward Diner. The Wayward Diner, WD, it'd be a real hoot if the eatery made it to its 30th birthday, was situated on the outskirts of Unity, North Dakota. Town motto: "The howl you hear in the middle of the night is the cry of unity." The WD, not to be confused with the WC in any of its various meanings, boasted that it offered, quote, "the best chicken fried potato salad in the tri-state area." The sign had to be changed when the disambiguating diner, with its disgraced 4-star chef from the big city, Dayton, who specialized in chicken fried potato salad, opened down the street. But the WD's diner, Phil Boyd Studge, never quite had the time to get around to it. The exterior could use a new coat of paint, well, couldn't we all? And Deep Fryer 3 would melt a snowball in a heat wave. But the fact that the diner had seen better days was attractive to some people. Tourists, mostly, out-of-towners who confused seediness with authenticity. Mona locked the door behind the last customer of the day, who, for the sake of narrative completeness, I should point out, had paid his bill about an hour earlier. Ordinarily, Mo, who was even shorter than she was, but to be fair, was a lot hairier. A man who sported the face of a 70-year-old, even though he claimed to be 43, would turn the neon open sign in the front window to close at the same time. After 6 years of working together, they had developed a kind of lunch counter synchronicity. Mona waited 3 seconds, 7 seconds, 19 seconds, 19 seconds? Their timing hadn't been this off since Mona had started working at the diner. She turned to see Mo talking on the phone behind the counter, the one in these settings that was always on the wall next to the window that allowed customers to see into the kitchen, although only the bravest of souls would avail themselves of the opportunity. Opposite the cash register, he looked old and confused and desperately in need of a hug. Mona walked up to the counter just as Mo hung up. "Everything okay?" she chirped. "I am a traveler of both time and space," Mo darkly responded. At least, it seemed dark to Mona, although she couldn't be sure because his deep voice lent darkness to everything he said, including, "I just won the lottery," and "Good morning." Mona was stunned. You what?" she sputtered. "I am a traveler of both time and space," Mo, composing himself, repeated. "But that, if you know the counter password, say it now," Mo commanded. Mona had never noticed it before, but the way he played the spatula from one hand to the other looked vaguely threatening. Perhaps, now that she came to think of it, not so vaguely. "I am a traveler of both time and space." "I'm moving to Kashmir," Mona glumly responded. Mo shook his head in disbelief. "I often wondered if headquarters was going to send backup," he commented, "and if they did, who it might be. But in all the years we've worked together in this heartless universe, I never expected my contact would be you." Taking off her apron as she walked to the counter, Mona answered, "Likewise." She dropped the apron along with her pad and pencil on the counter with finality. "So," Mo said, "I think it's time to submit our final report and get the invasion of this Earth started. Agreed?" "Agreed," Mona. Nodding, Mo opened the till and took out a $1 bill. After he closed the till, Mona asked him what he was doing. "Souvenir," he explained. "You can't do that," Mona admonished him. "Why not?" "It's stealing. The owner could have you blackballed from every diner in the tri-state area." A moment later, the pair broke out laughing. And that seems like a good enough place to end it.
Thank you very much, Ira. It's really nice to actually hear the author read these stories because, when we did the launch, not everybody was available, so we couldn't hear everybody read. The next reader is Marleen S Barr. So Marleen S Barr is known for her pioneering work in feminist science fiction and teaches English at the City University of New York. She has won the Science Fiction Research Association Pilgrim Award for Lifetime Achievement in Science Fiction Criticism. Barr is the author of Alien to Femininity, Speculative Fiction and Feminist Theory, Lost in Space, Probing Feminist Science Fiction and Beyond, Feminist Fabulation, Space Postmodern Fiction, and Genre Fiction, a new discourse practice for cultural studies. Barr has edited many anthologies and co-edited the science fiction issue of PMLA. She is the author of the novels Oi Pioneer and Oi Feminist Planets, a Fake Memoir. And I should also mention, Marlee and I are working on another book, so hopefully that will come out later this year, which is also inspired by Trump. So thank you very much. So go ahead, Marlee.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I said about 5 words, and you could hear from my voice that this is an authentic voice from Queens. I come from walking distance of where Trump grew up. Like I could throw a stone and hit him in the head when he was growing up. And I could not stand anything about him. And his cadence comes out of my mouth naturally. And it was very easy for me to write fiction about him. And I have written more Trump fiction, I think, than anybody else on the planet. And I published an anthology of fiction stories called When Trump Changed, the Feminist Science Fiction Justice League Quashes the Orange Outrage Pussy Grabber, because I was outraged. So I'm going to share with you one of my Trump stories, and it's called The Trump Brand. And I don't like horror and I don't write horror. I write humorous science fiction, but this is the most horror-sodden story that I ever wrote. And it's about how Trump carries his penchant for exploitation and materialism to the extreme. So I'm happy to share it with you now. The Trump brand. Professor Stella Diamond, feminist science fiction scholar par excellence, was strolling with her metrosexual French-Canadian art historian husband, Pepe Le Pew. Stella shook her head when she looked at the moon and saw a logo emblazoned on it. She had heard that astronauts were mounting a billboard on the moon. After Trump built the wall, he signed an executive order which restructured NASA's funding. Decreeing that science had no connection to space exploration, he reconfigured NASA to comply with his self-interest. The Trump era moon landing, no small step for mankind, was a great economic leap forward for the Trump family. Astronauts mounted a neon sign on the moon, which could easily be read from Earth. No one could miss the nightly lunar message. Buy Ivanka's clothing brand. Stella was outraged. This is the limit, she said to Pepe. I thought that Trump turning the White House into the hotel was the last straw. I was incredulous when he placed huge golden letters over the White House main entrance, which read, Trump House. The nerve of him, renting out the Lincoln bedroom for $10,000 a night. Who could have imagined that the stately White House red, blue, and gold rooms would be transformed into convention venues? My breaking point came when Trump changed the White House lawn into a golf course, interjected Pepe. No, the worst was when he had Trump painted on the side of the mother of all bombs he dropped on North Korea. I beg to differ. The biggest outrage was his law mandating that Trump steaks were the only food that could be sold in American grocery stores. I'm a vegan. Now I'm forced to eat dead cows with Trump's name stamped on them. I was more surprised when CUNY and SUNY and then Harvard and Yale merged with Trump University. Trump University has taken over every university in the country. Ditto for the airlines. Trump resurrected the Trump shuttle and merged it with the entire American aviation industry. Remember the outrage after United Airlines overbooked a flight and charged a 69-year-old doctor and dragged him off the plane? Those were the good old days. United, of course, no longer exists. The Trump shuttle routinely treats passengers in the manner of Mitt Romney transporting his dog on a car top. Taking a last look at the besmirched moon, Stella and Pepe walked back to their Park Avenue apartment. Pepe almost keeled over after picking up the paper and seeing the New York Times headline. President renames USA Drumpfheim. The entire American economy had become tied to the Trump family business. Trump impersonator was the most lucrative occupation available to men now. Alec Baldwin's wealth recently surpassed that of Bill Gates. With the exception of supermodels and beauty pageant contestants, Drumpfheim women could no longer hold jobs. Trump decreed that all women look like ladies at all times. No more jeans, sneakers, and scrunchies. Women were mandating to resemble Ivanka and Melania clones. Stella hung her head when she told Pepe the latest news. My name isn't Stella anymore. I have a new one. Which is, Pepe asked? Of Donald. All female Drumpfheimians have been renamed of Donald. Melania and Ivanka are the only exceptions. The exemption applies to two women. Who ever heard of anyone else being named Melania and Ivanka? If all but two females in the country are now named of Donald, How will we differentiate between individuals? Trump, although he didn't use these exact words, ostensibly said that female subjectivity is a lie. He claims the right to grope any pussy at will. Drumpfheim men became bored of seeing all the Donalds wearing Ivanka brand clothes. Attired in their Trump impersonator guises festooned with blue pussy hats, they gathered to protest by participating in the Men's March on Washington. The concentration of men worked to Trump's advantage. The Trump brand has become the most important thing in Drumpfheim, he bellowed. Trump threw a microphone on stage, set up the gated to the White House lawn. In the wake of the Donald plethora, I will also apply Fordism to men. I put my brand on the moon, the food, the universities, the airlines, and the entire Drumpfheim economy. I will now brand all Drumpfheim men. I mean this literally, screamed Trump as he brandished a branding iron at the blue-hatted marches. The branding iron contained 5 letters, T-R-U-M-P. All men were required to roll up their right sleeve of their oversized Trump impersonator suits as they herded and concentrated within corrals. They were branded on their inner arms just above their wrists with the 5 ubiquitous letters.
Okay, Marleen, thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Next, we have Michael Manzer. So Michael is a writer and ELL teacher who lives with his family in the Seattle area, where he reads lots of books, writes fiction, and thinks a lot about languages, aliens, space, and magic in the future world he is imparting to his son. You can follow him on Twitter, and he has a unique handle that I cannot pronounce. So maybe, Michael, why don't you pronounce your Twitter handle and start?
Nevtelen Uriember. Which makes total sense if you happen to speak Hungarian, but otherwise can be tough to put together. Thank you. My story in this collection is called Huge, or I should say Huge. And it is a story set in the future where every country is ruled by a clone of Donald Trump. And recently, a group of aliens moved into the solar system to colonize Titan. And in response, Earth built a planetary defense shield. The main character of this story, whose name is Clump, right, clone of Trump, and his android servant are meeting with the aliens on his orbiting golf course, his orbital golf course, in order to get the aliens to pay for the planetary defense shield. So I'm going to read from the middle of the story, right when Clump first meets the aliens. And the lead alien, I should say, has the name Corvex. So Corvex extended one of its tentacles, which then sprouted 5 small appendages in the rough imitation of a hand. We offer you a handshake. Still smiling, Clump forced himself to shake the alien's tentacle. It was stiffer than he would have thought, and the fingers encircled his wrist in a vaguely unsettling way. He tried his usual arm-tugging handshake, but couldn't move the alien's appendage more than a centimeter or 2. It's a pleasure to meet you, Corvex. And I should say the alien's name is the Nichoklu. The Nichoklu's mouth turned upward in an attempt to mimic a smile. It is pleasant to meet you. It disengaged its hand from Clump's. It can be difficult for us to make the ritual of handshake with humans, but your hand is pleasingly small. What a jackass. I can't believe I'm going to play golf with this thing. Yes, sir. You're willing to do whatever it takes, sir. That is just one of your many admirable traits. Clump used his club to indicate the surroundings. My company, Clump Exploration and Investments, just finished building this tremendous hotel and golf course. You wouldn't believe how many celebrities I've had calling me, wanting to play golf here. People call me about it all the time. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Earth game of golf, but this is the best course in the solar system. A great place to try out the game. I'd be happy to give you a really great set of Clump brand clubs from our pro shop so we can play a few rounds together while we discuss matters. We are not interested in playing this game. Clump's smile got more strained. Oh, well, it's traditional on Earth, for leaders to play golf together. Well, Corvex cut Trump off mid-sentence. You bear striking resemblance to all other leaders on your world. Are you a member of the leadership clade on your planet? They didn't even bother to find out anything about Earth customs. I'm going to enjoy screwing these lazy nachos over, Kush. Yes, sir. I'm sure you will find it diverting, sir. Well, I'm mostly a businessman at present, but I have, let's say, friends in planetary government. They asked me to help them out. I have full authority to negotiate on behalf of the Council of Drumps and planet Earth, if that's what you're wondering. Good. Then we wish to ask why you have summoned us. These things get right to it, Kush. An excellent observation, sir. Clump tossed his 5-wood towards the bag, and Kush dutifully retrieved it from the ground and put it away. I'm sure someone in your outpost in Titan has noticed the fact that Earth now has a planetary defense shield? Yes, we were perplexed. We were not aware your world was in an interplanetary conflict. If there is any danger to our colony and your system, we would greatly appreciate any notice you can give us. Clump smiled briefly. That's not it at all. This is no interplanetary war going on. Yet. That shield was built to keep your kind off our planet. He jabbed a finger at Corvex. And Earth expects you to pay for it. The total cost of building the shield adds up to, around $100 quadrillion. Corvex's facial features didn't move a millimeter, but several sensory appendages extended further out behind it, and the other two Nichoklu grasped them with their own tentacles. The silence stretched on for a few seconds before the contact was broken and Corvex spoke. We are perplexed by your claim. Our dominion on Titan has never made aggressive action toward your planet, nor do we intend to. Why is it you deem a planetary shield a necessity? Oh, these things are going to be pushovers, Kush. We're going to fleece these meat tubes for so much money we could make a road out of the cash and walk back home from here. I believe that idea is problematic at best, sir. I didn't mean that literally, you stupid circuit brain. Of course, Mr. Clump. Should I arrange for the hotel restaurant to start cooking us a victory dinner, sir? Yeah, tell them to make me a steak. Well done with a side of ketchup, like usual. And add the Grande Fiesta taco bowl. Don't give me that crap, Corvex. A number of you nachos have visited Earth. You met with humans. You talked with humans. You tried to spread your ideology. You've already colonized a major planetary body in our system. We can't be sure you're not gathering information about humanity or using some kind of technologically advanced info weapon. My friends in world leadership think what you're doing is a tremendous threat to life on Earth. We've taken steps to prevent that threat. You owe us for that. We expect to recover our investment. Corvex again entangled its sensory appendages with those of its companions before replying. Our species is composed of clusters of modular communalist hive minds. The concept of individuality is fascinating to us. We simply wish to interact with members of your species to pass on knowledge that may be beneficial to your civilization. It is not clear to us what harm there may be in these actions. We have never intended harm. Clump made a chopping motion, as if to cut off the Nichoklu's point. I don't care what you intended. The reality is you owe Earth $100 quadrillion.
Wow, that was fantastic. Okay, our next reader is Priya Sridhar. So she is a MBA graduate and published author, and she has been writing fantasy and science fiction for 15 years and counting, as well as drawing a webcomic for 5 years. All very multi-talented. She believes that every story is a journey and that a good tale allows the reader to escape to a new world. One of Priya's stories made the top 10 Amazon Kindle download list, and Alban Lake published her novella Carousel. Priya lives in Miami, Florida with her family and posts monthly at her blog. So welcome, Priya.
Thank you so much. This story became a little dated, ironically enough, because I wrote it as a worst case scenario. What if Trump won in both elections? It's basically about an SNL equivalent with the trademark removed, responding to Trump dying and how there is much rejoicing about it, juxtaposed with the construction of a Trump mausoleum. I'm not sure how it reads in the modern day, but I am happy I got to see print. Swan song to a gold-plated mausoleum. Her heart rattled with the rhythm that made her stomach ache. It thrummed at a rapid pace, jostling her chest. Swan brushed a strand of hair off her forehead. Her makeup sweated, lips a dull red color with an added hint of gold eyeshadow. Swan thought she looked like last year's enamel evening bag. She stood in front of the studio audience, focusing her gaze on the camera. "Welcome to another wonderful show," Swan announced. "We have a great line of guest stars lined up, including Rue Morgue and Goldie Channing." The audience applauded. Swan fought the instinct to cover her breasts. She was wearing a teal ball gown that was better fit for a dance floor. Everyone was eyeing the low cut. They remembered the green bikini from that show. Swan wished that she could forget the green bikini. "There are hints that a certain flock of birds may join us," Swan said suggestively. The audience cheered. "It's amazing to be up here," she said. "Back when I was a kid growing up in the Florida backwater, I thought I would just be flipping burgers at McDonald's. And you know, I don't have the wrist for that. You have to have the coordination. It's like being the MVP of Big Macs." She mimed flipping a burger. That got a few weak laughs. "And also, we're still here," she said. "You may have heard that a certain president passed away." Boos greeted her in response. Swan grinned widely at the noise. "Yeah, that was me. Ding dong, the witch is dead. They say you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but frankly, who's gonna defend the Harry Orange anyway? Are you gonna honor him tonight?" "No!" There was more laughter from the crowd. "Good, neither are we. You know he's getting the full ceremonies, a full marble mausoleum and gold toilets on his tomb." This earned her first real laugh. "Also, you have to bribe guards to even get a glimpse of the gold. I know I'm going to New Jersey with Chisel. Who else is?" Some people cheered. "But think of it this way," she told the crowd. "We made it. We survived. And guess who didn't? Ex-President Donald Trump. His hands tried to squeeze the life out of us, but they were too small." Swan staggered and walked. She pressed a manicured hand to her chest. Her heart gave a lurch. The pacemaker thrummed uneasily. There was a pause. Swan's smile became a grimace. Then she stood tall. "I know I'll be celebrating." She pulled a tiny champagne flute from her padded bra and a tiny hot pink bottle of champagne pops. "To outliving the Harry Orange." Construction of the mausoleum didn't finish until late winter. It stood at 19 feet and had creamy marble walls. Multiple obelisks cluttered the space. The people that worked on the mausoleum had bad tempers. They were men with missing teeth, beard stubble, and hacking coughs. They wore blue uniforms embroidered with the Trump emblem. "Out of my sight," they yelled at people who strolled into the site without helmets. "You're trespassing." Jared Kushner took questions from Fox News and Breitbart. Ivanka went to Iceland to promote her clothes and shoes. Tiffany vanished, along with the sons. They said Melania had confined herself to one of the many Trump hotels. Hotel clerks hung up on hearing the name. ICE denied the allegation that it had received orders to deport her. Someone left a tiny guillotine outside a Trump hotel. It had a beheaded doll under its minuscule blades with a smashed china face. "The Queen is dead." A tag attached to the guillotine read, "Long live the Queen." She sat at the prop desk. This set had been used before in skits about the hairy bureaucrats that held on to their jobs the way some houses during hurricanes held on to the ground. Bill Gray was guest starring. He wore a bald wig with a camel hair comb over. Kendall, the director, made the motion to start. Swan crossed her legs under the desk, as they discussed during commercial. She took a deep breath and assumed a rigid pose. Bo swaggered over to her and chewed gum loudly. "I'm here to vote in the upcoming election," he said in a nasally accent. Then he swallowed his gum loudly before hacking. Good morning to you too, Swan recited, while she made a show of stuff shuffling around. May I have your ID? Sure thing. Bo took out a prop ID made for this purpose. He dropped it, grabbed it, and dropped it again. Then he mixed it up with other props pulled from his pockets. A string of paper clips, a paper doll with a white hood, a purple dildo, and a wad of dollar bills. These went up in the air and down. After a vast amount of juggling, he finally set the ID on the prop desk, next to the dildo. The audience had already started to laugh. Swan remained stone-faced. Mirth bubbled against her heart and against the pacemaker. She picked up the dildo and scrutinized it. This isn't valid ID, she said, biting her lip. Ah, nuts. Nuts are also segregated. We operate on a cock-blocking policy, Swan said with a straight face. She bent down and revealed a large saw from the desk's bottom drawer. So I would suggest not taking any of these out. What about my license? Bo gestured at a plastic card. Let me see. Swan pretended to type. Johnny Smith, age 35, no criminal record, birth certificate on file, citizenship undisputed. She stopped dead cold. The silence made the audience laugh. Swan turned. What? Bo asked. I'm sorry, I can't allow you to vote. Swan gave an exaggerated, sarcastic shrug. New rules. What rules? You voted for Donald Trump in the 2016 and 2020 elections. Swan gave a fake smile that showed off her whitened teeth. Anyone who voted for Pussygate is determined unfit to vote in future elections. But that's not fair, he protested. I have the right to vote for whomever I want. Not when it decimates our country's financial and social institutions, as well as destroying net neutrality. You allowed Verizon and Comcast to charge online lanes, Johnny. How did you think we would respond? Oh, opened his mouth. He was supposed to protest here, but nothing came out of his mouth. He wasn't reading the cue card. Swan decided to go to the next line before the audience realized his fumble. Oh, don't look so dour. Now you're among the ranks of Americans abroad, convicted felons, and Black people. She spread her fingernails and grinned. Welcome to their world. I'm going to challenge this in court, Bo said, retaining his thunder. And what do you think you'll get, Johnny Smith? Swan played a computer. Settlement money? Oh, that's right. It got eaten up when Trump spent tax-paying dollars on golfing weekends and sending Barron to private school. The laughs became more uncomfortable.
All right, thank you, Priya. All right. Okay, our next reader is Brian J. Smith. So Brian has been featured in numerous anthologies, e-zines, and magazines in both the mystery and horror genres. His books, Dark Avenues, The Tuckers, Uncle Bubby, and 3 O'Clock are available on Amazon for Kindle. He lives in Chelsea, Ohio, with his brother and 4 dogs. And he can be found on Twitter under @BrianJSmith913 and on Facebook under Brian Joseph. So why do you have 2 names, Brian? But anyhow, you can start.
Notifications by Brian J. Smith. The J is for Joseph, my middle name. My story is about the sacrifice that I was convinced people would do for this man if they had the chance to. And my story is called Notifications. My phone is sitting on the coffee table in front of me, but it hasn't gone off yet. I'm waiting for my next notification, but instead it just sits there like the space-age piece of junk it was before I took it out of the box. I can't wait to get my next notification so I know what to do next. As the song goes, waiting is the hardest part. I posted an update 10 minutes ago, so why haven't I heard from anyone? Maybe they're just too busy to respond to it, running here and there, doing this and that, living their own lives and bullshit. If they've got time to post their own shit, then they've got time to respond to mine. They're just jealous that my selfies look better than theirs. They can try all they want to, but my selfies will always be better than theirs. Always. Better luck next time, fucktards. Here's another one of me in the kitchen you can carry around in your pocket. It's a nice kitchen, huh? Oak cupboards, tile countertop with nice stainless steel appliances. The place itself is in one of those red brick buildings that overlooks the city. My phone beeps. Oh, goody. I got one. I finally got one. Actually, I got 7, but it's not about my kitchen. It's about the tree standing in the back of the building at the edge of the hill. It stands before a pinkish blue sunset, its gnarled shadow stretching across the grass. It would make a good screensaver, that's for sure. Hold a minute, I'll be right back. There, I'm back. I had to go out to the back of the building, rip a branch from that tree, and wet myself for 7 minutes, then upload my evidence. Long red scratches creased down my back like a one-night stand. I even got deep enough to draw some blood. This is how the app works. You download the app, upload a selfie or a picture, and then you base the severity of your self-humiliation on the number of likes, hence the tree branch and the number of whips I'd given myself. When it comes to social media, it's no longer about self-pride and narcissism anymore. They don't care if you smile unless you're going to knock your own teeth out. It has always been like this since we elected our new president. In order to stay a citizen of the United States, you had to download the app. Some people say he was self-absorbed and wanted to see support through sacrificing his people. They compared him to the famous cult leader Jim Jones, only instead of Kool-Aid, the president preferred a show of pain. Like me, a lot of people will do anything for him. If you didn't follow the rules, there was a stiff penalty. I'm sure it's bad. It gives me the creeps just thinking about it. Oh well, coffee's done. I step out on the front porch to grab the morning paper when I hear her voice. I scan the block of one-story stucco house sitting on neatly clipped lawns when a familiar face steps into my periphery. I pick up the paper, hold up my hand as a greeting right across the lawn. Hey, Gus. How you doing, Trevor? Waiting for my next notification. I got my first one this morning. It was a good one. The tree? I nod, then slip my left arm out of my sleeve to slide the side of my robe down to show him my back. He whistles and gives me a small round of applause. He's a portly built man with a halo of brown hair on his big dome-like head and has the strict gaze of a grandfather. When I slip the robe back into place, we shake hands with a couple of war buddies. President Trump would be proud of you, Trev. He says, really proud. I hope so. How's Gail doing? She's good, he nodded. She put up a picture of her new bracelet I bought her last week, and her phone's been blowing up all morning. Where did you get that? Zeke's Diamonds and More. He gives a proud smile. She was grinding a paring knife in her right hand when I came out here to find where that little bastard stuck my paper. Cool. Hello, Trev. I peer over my shoulder to see Gail Landis crossing the street. She is 3 inches taller than Gus and has the silkiest mane of blonde hair I've ever seen. She's cradling her right hand inside of her left, her olive tan skin fading to a ghostly pallor. Blood pulsates out from the middle of her hand like a fist pumping the air of the rock concert. Tiny red drops splatter against the front of her cotton pink nightgown, which already has a large stain resembling a poorly painted strawberry. Hello, beautiful. I saw your back, she mumbles. Good job with the branch. Thanks, I blush. Have you heard back from Nina? My throat freezes at the sound of her name. I haven't thought about her in a long time since she chose to go to Mexico with all the others who didn't like the election results. Not yet, Gail. I miss her. She makes the best tuna noodle casserole. She sure did. Gail teeters toward the ground, but Gus cuffs her in his arm and cradles her tightly against him. Her cracked, pale lips tremble as she stares down at the towel wrapped around her still bleeding hand. Let's get you inside, get you all bandaged up. Gus nods at her. I mean, I'll see you later, Trevor. Take it easy, guys. I get back inside the house and lean my still throbbing back to the door. It hurts, but the pain became normal. I wince and accept the pain as much as the rest of the country. I carry the paper to the kitchen table and read the front page headline between bites of hickory smoked bacon and scrambled eggs with toast. Man burns down bus killing 16. Blooms up at me in big black font. According to the headline, the driver was driving a load of people to the border when he uploaded a picture of the bus and received.
Oh, Okay, thank you very much, Brian. I mean, scary thing is I can actually see people downloading an app and torturing themselves. Oh well. But our last story is by Mr. Will Morton. So, born in the U.S., Will Morton lives in the Los Angeles area with his wife Yvonne. He has received honorable mentions 3 times from the writers of the Future contest. His story, The Molly Armband, was selected for the Australian anthology All the King's Men. His stories have also appeared in the e-zine Third Flatiron and in small press anthologies. Visit him at his website, www.willmorton.com. Will.
All right, thank you. Yes, when I started to write for this story for this anthology, I did not include in my bio that I do stand-up comedy. I do it locally here as semi-professionally. And so I knew when I wrote this story, I wanted to write a comedy. And since it's easy to find humor with Trump, and even at the beginning of his administration, it was already obvious. And in fact, it was, in my opinion, it was a little too easy. So I attempted to write a story that was, first of all, going to hold together as a story and set it in a science fictional setting. But I also wanted to make it general, and I wanted to try to avoid some of the obvious things that could be said. And I will leave it to you to judge whether or not I accomplished that. I also deliberately chose a structure that I feel is very effective for communicating comedy. I chose the short episodic method of presenting a story in short, quick episodes, which I called chapters. There are 9 of them in this story. This is the brief reign of King Donnie the Awesome. 'Tis much when scepters are in children's hands. King Henry VI, Part 1, Act 4, Scene 1. Chapter 1, Donnie is the new king of Merry Cow. But I want ice cream now, Donnie Clump whined. We're late, Donnie. You'll have to wait until after the funeral. His mother, Queen Melanoma, sighed, her attention waning. There will be ice cream at the wake. I'm awake now, Donnie argued, beginning to pout. Oh, let him have some ice cream, said Michael McPrince, regent of Merry Cow, as he strode through the doorway without waiting to be announced. He's the new king, and you're not. McPrince motioned to a nearby robot guard, which immediately pressed buttons on its torso. A microsecond later, its tummy door slid open and it pulled out a dish of Quibbleberry ice cream. Queen Melanoma opened her mouth to speak, but Donnie cried, Uncle Mikey, and ran to him, accidentally bumping the robot's hand and knocking the dish to the floor. Tell your mother you're not only a king, you're a star, and stars can grab ice cream anytime they want. Donnie turned to glare at his mother. Yeah, Mom. Donnie, you know your father didn't. Daddy always put me in timeout, Donnie interrupted, and kings don't have to be in timeout. He turned an anxious glance to Uncle Mikey. Do they? Absolutely not. Kings are above the law. Donnie pumped a tiny fist in the air. Queen Melanoma stared at the two of them, attention gradually fading from her eyes. Ice cream, she said, looking away. It's just boy talk. Donnie resumed a virtual Tweety game on his handheld, thumbs jabbing furiously. I know what King Donnie wants to do. Donnie jerked his head up. What, Uncle Mikey? I'll bet you want to talk on holovids like your daddy used to. Oh, can I really? Certainly. Kings can talk whenever they want. And you know what? He leaned down and whispered conspiratorially. Everybody has to listen. Listen to me? Uncle Mikey nodded, grinning. You could speak after your father's funeral. More boy talk, said Queen Melanoma. Chapter 2, King Donnie's first holo speech. Hello, Mary Cow. Everybody has to listen because I'm the king and you're not. Donnie looks at something off to the side. His voice can be heard saying, cool, I can see myself standing right there. Donnie tilts his head as someone speaks to him off camera. After a moment, he nods and turns to the holo imager again. Uncle Mikey said to call him Regent. He's the one that put the crown on my head, remember? After my daddy fell off the top of the castle? Anyway, I'm King Donnie now, and I get to eat ice cream whenever I want, which is so cool. I'm going to eat 2 gazillion dishes of ice cream. Regent Mikey says everyone has to call a king Your Majesty. But I don't like that. I like awesome better because I'm so awesome. That's what I want everyone to call me, King Donnie the Awesome. Chapter 3, King Donnie is briefed on current affairs. What's the matter? What's the matter, Uncle Mikey? King Donnie asked, stopping his virtual Tweety game for the first time that morning. The regent turned his eyes away and sighed. I hate to trouble you with trifles. Rifles? Can I have a rifle? Wait until you're grown up, Queen Melanoma said. Oh, Mom, Donnie whined. That won't be until forever. Uncle Mikey glanced at King Donnie out of the corner of his eye and sighed again, more melodramatically this time. What, Uncle Mikey? Well, the regent said, slowly turning to face the infantile monarch, it's about the aliens. Green men from Mars? Actually, they're from the moon. I want green men from Mars. Well, they are green, sort of. Queen Melanoma rolled her vacant eyes. Your father wanted Merical to be the first country with a moon colony. Yes, he did, agreed the regent, but the colonists keep coming back to Earth, illegally. They're illegal aliens. Green aliens from the moon here in Merical? Queen Melanoma yawned. Our moon colonists are human, Michael. Oh, they're green, all right. Regent Mikey met King Donnie's eyes. You see, the moon is made of green cheese. Like green eggs and Spam? The king asked. Sort of. The regent drew his brows together. And they eat the green cheese because it has chlorophyll. Gloryphil? Plants use it to get nourishment from sunlight. Oh, plants use it to get nourishment from sunlight, Queen Melanoma began. You mean these aliens drink the sun? Exactly. And then when they come back to Earth, they eat up all our food, and they don't even need to eat. We should keep them out. Yes, but how? Mikey asked, looking away and patting one hand against a wall. I want to build a wall, a great big wall between Earth and the moon, in space. That'll be expensive, Queen Melanoma murmured in a bored tone. I'll get the moon to pay for it. Brilliant, cried Uncle Mikey, and the little boy beamed. What about illegal aliens already here in Merical? Asked Queen Melanoma. They won't be hard to find since they're a different color, retorted Donnie. I want them, reported. Do you mean deported? Asked Uncle Mikey. That too, agreed King Donnie the Awesome. And I'll stop there.
Wow, it's so wonderful to hear everyone's stories, because when we did our book launch, not everyone was available, and everyone's, in different countries sometimes. But it's wonderful to hear all our wonderful readers tonight. So there's about 10 minutes left for this panel. So maybe I'll ask everyone to answer one question, and we'll go in the order that we read as to what are your new projects that are coming out that we should look forward to. So Ira?
Okay. Well, as I think I mentioned, I have 2 new alternate reality news service books. That's when everything, You and What Universe / That's When Everything Went Cow-Shaped, and Welcome to the Insurrection. The Inconvenience is the Policy. And as I said, those are both Trump-related satirical collections of news articles. My new novel, Bad Actors, is the second in a trilogy. It will come out later this year, and it's about what happens when, oh, I should back up and say, so, I mean, my novels are set in a multiverse scenario. And in this particular trilogy, it's about what happens when one universe is about to die, and the transdimensional authority, which is the authority that polices travel between universes, tries to get as many of the sentient beings out of that universe as refugees into other universes. And that's what I'm up to.
Very cool. So Marleen? Maybe.
I wear two hats in that late in life, I ventured out into fiction, but I spent the preponderance of my life being an English professor who specializes in science fiction. And I'm the first woman who was a science fiction scholar in the academy. So I think unsurprisingly, my latest venture is a critical article on the British science fiction writer Naomi Alderman, and it's coming out in an anthology about women in science fiction from Routledge Press. And I'm arguing that Alderman pioneered a new area of feminist science fiction in which females are superheroes because of doing mundane powers, not flying around like Superman. And I talk about several novels to do that. And with my fiction hat, well, I'm really excited to say that my latest project is doing a book with you. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy to have the chance to put out the rest of my Trump stories. So I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I'm so excited to work with you, and I can't wait to see how it all comes out. It will be a pleasure, and I'm just excited. So thank you, and I enjoyed participating tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Marleen. How about Michael?
Hi, so I write mostly short fiction. I don't have any coming out in the immediate future. COVID, I would say, has put a little bit of a cramp in my style that way. But you know, I've had a couple come out since this anthology was published, and hopefully, again, I'll have more short fiction coming out in other venues coming up.
Yeah, I blame the children. It's hard to write when they're around.
For sure.
How about Priya?
So I do both fiction and nonfiction. This year, I don't have a long work coming out, but I did have one come out last year with Unnerving Press called Offstage Offerings. My next short fiction publication will be in Tiny Terrors, coming from editor Jennifer Brozek of horror flash fiction. I also have a Medium account and currently drafting a very sizzling critique of Raya and the Last Dragon. So if any of you don't mind spoilers, I invite you all to check that out.
Very, very cool. How about Brian?
I have a zombie novel and a novella sitting on two different editors' desks. My book, Dark Avenues, is a collection of short stories. It's currently available on Amazon, paperback and Kindle, which features the story that I read. And I've been featured in a flash fiction collection, a short horror collection called Books of Horror Volume 2. And right now I'm working on a post-apocalyptic novella.
Actually, can I see your t-shirt? Halloween safety?
Yeah.
Very cool. And how about Will? We'll circle back to you.
Yes. I haven't done a whole lot of writing since the quarantine began, and several reasons for that. Actually, my writing kind of slowed down in the past 4 years for several reasons. But I feel that now is a very important time. We need to get stories out there that have the message of hope and healing. And I have ideas, quite a number of ideas for stories, short and even novel length, that will have that message and address what I think is most needed in the United States and really around the world at this time. I have been quite active as a stand-up comedian doing shows online because we've been in quarantine. I've been writing a lot of material for that, and some of that I think will find its way into some of the things that I write as well.
Oh,
Write
awesome.
as stories as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
so thank you very much. So we have 3 more minutes. I'm wondering if anyone in the audience has any questions. And if not, I think we can probably wrap up. So thank you very much for attending this event. It's part of a small book fair press event. So there's a couple more events happening actually. If you go to their website, if you look up SMOL, SMOL fair.com, there's a lot of small presses there. Check out their stuff. There's a lot of new works by writers. And as for if you are a writer, it might be a good chance for you to look at other small presses because there's always submissions going on. And there's probably a better chance of publishing with a small press sometimes than with a large one, depending on what you write. So thank you very much once again for attending. And everybody was really awesome. And I'm just thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for coming out. It was beautiful to listen to the words being read. So have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.